So it's been about 4 or 5 days since the Battlefield 6 open beta officially went offline, and just a little bit ago, DICE came out with a new community update titled Battlefield 6 Open Beta Debrief, going over some of their learnings from the 2 beta weekends and some changes they plan on implementing before launch. Of course, as per usual with these community update blog posts, it turned out to be pretty controversial. So we're going to talk about that in today's video. I'm going to give my thoughts on some of the changes they plan to make, whether I think it's good or bad, and then also briefly discuss the new big maps coming to Battlefield Labs that will be available to testers soon. Really quick though, if you enjoy the content around here, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It does truly help me out a lot, and I really appreciate you guys. I'm a big ol' Battlefield fan, okay? I've played practically every title in the franchise, so if you enjoy this game, definitely stick around while we patiently and painfully grind through this next month as we wait for the release of Battlefield 6. So first things first, they start this article with discussing some changes they will be making to the weapons, the overall feel of gunplay, and the TTK and TTD. I'll put it up on screen right now, but they start off by saying, "We're making targeted adjustments to deliver a more consistent and rewarding gunplay experience. This includes a general pass on recoil and tap fire characteristics across all weapons, further emphasizing their unique feel and improving range differentiation. We've also made changes to encourage more controlled tap firing and burst firing, rewarding precision and weapon mastery." My initial reaction to this, as long as they are doing this with the emphasis on making the weapons feel unique and create more of like a skill gap, this sounds great to me. I do think that during the beta, some of the weapons, specifically the carbines and assault rifles, all had a kind of like a samey feel to them, you know, especially after you upgraded them and unlocked a lot of the better attachments. Now, it wasn't Battlefield 4 level of samey to me, where most of those carbines in that game, for example, felt identical, just with a different name, but you could get them feeling pretty close to each other in Battlefield 6. One thing I do worry about, and we will just have to wait and see how this all feels at launch, of course, is when they say they did a general pass on recoil. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion, that's fine. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But I felt like the recoil was fine on the guns themselves in Battlefield 6. Yes, I do admit, once you upgraded the guns with better underbarrel grips, for example, you could get them pretty beamy, but it was nothing like 2042, and I never felt like I was getting killed from these insanely long ranges from an SMG or an AR in Battlefield 6. I think it's a tough balancing act when you start increasing recoil on weapons themselves in a shooter like this, especially when the gunplay they had in beta felt really fun to me personally. So my hope is that this general pass on recoil is more of a tuning of how the attachments affect the weapon performance and less of an actual base recoil change for each gun. Look, I'm not sure if that's actually how it works, to be honest. I'm not a developer, but you got to be careful when you tune up the recoil dial in a game like this, because in my opinion, that can quickly change the entire feel of gameplay like instantly. So all in all, creating a better skill gap and rewarding weapon mastery, I'm here for all of that. And if they can keep the moment to moment action fun like they had in the beta, then that's a W in my books. They also mentioned the shotgun getting a nerf, which thank God. Yeah, that thing was completely busted. And it's funny, they dropped some Battlefield 6 open beta stats today as well, and this shotgun had like 300 million kills across the 2 weekends. Okay, like it almost made me feel like maybe they included this stat as like a meme. Like, if you got to play the beta, you know, bro, like this weapon was cooking people left and right, especially on Empire State, where the fighting was such close quarters. So it is good to hear that on October 10th, I won't have this shotgun absolutely ruining my life when I load up Battlefield 6 for the first time, okay? And to wrap up the weapons section, they say, "We are investigating the time to kill and time to death experiences, and we will share an update if definitive changes are made in these areas." If DICE, what? Like, okay, now look, to me, the TTK itself was fine, if not maybe just a bit inconsistent, but for sure the time to death needs work, bro. Okay, like something just does not seem to be syncing up right in this game when it comes to TTK versus TTD. There were a lot of moments where you would get insta-killed from an assault rifle or an LMG. Even I felt like when you have reacted first and you popped off the first shots. Now, I think the biggest problem was the damage notifier. Maybe that was bugged or something, you know, like the blood around the screen or the darkening of the colors when you're getting shot on the borders. Sometimes I felt like I could react to being shot and I could dodge or move or get into cover. But for most of my deaths, I felt like as soon as I noticed I was getting shot at, I was already dead, bro. Okay. To me, this seems like a simple, well, I say simple, but I don't think in the back end it's actually that simple, but it's probably just a netcode issue. And I really hope they can get it feeling better for the launch of the game, because especially on weekend 2 of the beta, it was pretty bad, man. Like I was not enjoying the TTD in this game. But let's continue the article and move to the next section titled Movement. Now, of course, this is where, as always, people start arguing, okay? It says, movement mechanics have been adjusted to create a more balanced and traditional Battlefield experience. Momentum, especially horizontal speed, carried from a slide into a jump has been reduced. There is now a greater penalty for consecutive jumps, which lowers jump height when jumps are spammed. Firing while jumping or sliding will result in increased inaccuracy. These changes are designed to make sliding and jumping more situational, so they are no longer ideal options for engaging in gunfights, and will contribute to a gameplay pace that rewards skillful movement without becoming too fast or unpredictable. And I'll admit, if you follow me on Twitter initially, I reacted pretty negatively to this because of the history of this franchise and movement nerfs. Battlefield 1, for example, while being a cinematic, visually stunning, immersive masterpiece of media, has some of the most clunky, slow, boring ass movement that I've played in Battlefield. Okay, like I know it's World War I, I get it. It's historical for these guys to not be athletic soldiers, I guess. But in the Battlefield 1 open beta, this was actually not the case. They had a pretty decent slide mechanic in the game that allowed for you to counter people camping or get into cover if needed. And I personally thought it played pretty well and was clearly a movement tech that matched the map design of that game. But the community freaked out about the sliding. They nerfed the crap out of it. And at launch, Battlefield 1 just didn't feel the same to me. And so when they start talking about nerfs to movement in Battlefield 6, a game that feels pretty comparable to Battlefield 5's movement, which I think was fantastic, it kind of worried me. However, I dug into this deeper and I saw some tweets from Junksy, a game designer for Battlefield 6, that gave me some more confidence in this decision. He says, "It's difficult to give a feel of what we're doing through a blog post, but the movement changes are far from drastic. They're very localized adjustments to specific parts of movement where things could get too extreme. We want to retain depth and skill expression with movement." He also added, and this is honestly my favorite part, movement is also getting more responsive in general in places that have felt a bit clunky before. So there is a lot more that is getting quality improvements / polish in this same area. So this is great. This is music to my ears, to be honest. If they want to limit how insane this movement tech can be exploited, I'm all for that. We all saw the clips going around of people absolutely like floating around the map and bouncing off ledges 10 feet in the air during the Battlefield 6 beta. Okay, I think we can all agree, let's definitely knock that shit out of the game. But my worry was that they would revert too far and make the game too slow, which if they did that with how fast the TTK is in this game, dude, it would be an absolute head glitch nightmare with no ability to get out of harm's way. It would suck. It would not be fun at all. Okay, so the fact that he specifically said non-drastic changes and movement is going to be more responsive in general is fantastic. I love that. I personally think everyone needs to relax. Okay, take a breath on both sides. Let's just wait for launch. Okay, guys, when it comes to this, you're never going to please everyone, of course, but with this added context from Junksy, I'm actually really excited to see what they are doing with these movement changes. Next, they talk about maps, mainly the fact that the rooftop exploits we all saw in Siege of Cairo, and I believe it was also Iberian Offensive, got fixed, which that's awesome because those exploits actually ruined the end game for Breakthrough on Cairo. Like usually I can find exploits annoying or even kind of funny, right? But yeah, dude, it actually killed any kind of chance at winning as attackers on Breakthrough while playing Cairo, because the defenders, if they knew what they were doing, they could just pick you off from the bridge and you literally couldn't do anything to counteract it. So it's also good to hear that they're keeping this in mind with the ladder gadget that the assault class will be receiving at launch, because that could potentially make this problem even worse. So hopefully they have enough time to iron that out before October so we don't run into the same kinds of issues. Now this next part is super exciting. They say, we also heard strong feedback from players excited by the larger scale maps that Battlefield has to offer. While the open beta featured smaller, more fast-paced maps, larger scale maps are already part of our launch package, delivering action-packed gameplay and memorable, unique moments for every player. As part of the upcoming Battlefield Labs testing, we'll be testing 2 new multiplayer maps, one set in Mirak Valley, the other a remake of the fan favorite from Battlefield 3, Operation Firestorm. These 2 maps include the full complement of vehicles like Liberation Peak, along with a more vast combat space. And if you don't know, Mirak Valley is rumored to be the biggest map in Battlefield 6, and I'll throw it up on screen for you guys, but allegedly this map is like 4 times bigger than Cairo, okay, which is great. I personally was never worried about this whole maps are too small in Battlefield 6 thing that I saw a lot of people online complaining about. I get it. If all the maps were the size of Empire State, that would be a problem. That would get tiring really fast. But personally, I really do like this 180 in map design and philosophy from Battlefield 2042. Like every single map at launch for 2042 was massive, bro. Okay, there was no mix of close quarters and large scale warfare. It was just all big. You had a big map, a big rocket, a big tornado, big player count, just big, okay? Like, in fact, I feel like a lot of people complaining about the map sizes in Battlefield 6, you either don't remember or don't realize that a mix of small and large maps is actually traditional Battlefield, man, okay? Like Battlefield 3 had big maps and it had small maps. Bad Company 2, one of the most popular games in franchise history, had big wide open maps such as like Heavy Metal, and then you had smaller urban maps like Nelson Bay, Erica Harbor, and even Oasis to a certain degree had like little urban moments. So I think the fact that the beta was solely smaller maps was the problem. And I do agree, it would have been cool if they gave us one of the bigger maps during one of the weekends to try out and play. But also the maps they let us play during the weekend were a ton of fun in my opinion. And I think they were used solely to help them get more data surrounding the gunplay and the movement, which is what a lot of this article is about, okay? So I'm not worried. I think we will just be fine. We will experience those grand Battlefield large-scale maps in Battlefield 6, with more to come hopefully in future seasons of the game. Now, I am in labs, so I will be able to test these new maps soon, but I am not allowed to tell you guys when that happens, any of my personal feedback after I play it, etc. Now, I almost guarantee you this is gonna leak when they playtest it, okay? So we will cover that if and when it happens, but I promise I will do my duty as a playtester and I'll keep it 100 with the developers if I find any issues with these larger maps. Finally, we're gonna wrap up the video with one of the final sections in this article titled Modes. To me, it's weird that everyone is in a bunch over the movement nerfs and all that, because reading this mode section gave me zero assurance or confirmation that they plan on addressing the rush game mode for Battlefield 6. So let's read it. When it comes to rush, the conversation we observed wasn't just about player count, but also about how maps play and the tactical experience they offer. Rush is a mode with deep roots, originally known as Gold Rush and Bad Company, where matches typically ranged from 12v12 to 16v16. Many of you remember this as the golden era of Rush, and it continues to inspire our approach today. We've experimented with larger player counts over the years, such as 64 and even 128 versions. While these matches created intense, fast-paced moments, they also led to issues, overwhelming defenses, stalled front lines, and too many games ending in the first sector. Rush is especially sensitive to higher player counts due to its tactical and strategic requirements. When a player tries to arm the MCOM while more than 20 opponents are defending, the intended gameplay becomes less tangible. Based on feedback throughout recent titles, we're lowering the default player count for Rush to improve the flow of combat and restore the tactical, methodical experience that defines the mode. Now look, 12v12 is fine for Rush in this game, okay? The maps are smaller, I get it, and they are correct in saying that this is in line with the roots of the mode for the franchise, but are they not going to admit that Rush is kind of broken right now? Like, it just doesn't play good at the moment, and I think it's mainly with how they have the maps broken up for Rush and Battlefield 6. Personally, I'd like to see them maybe just copy the sectors from Breakthrough that they have in this game and then just add MCOMs. Like, I feel like you'd get better flanking opportunities in these maps if they did that. And it's ironic to me that they mentioned previous titles had too many games of Rush end in the first sector, when I felt that happened to me almost every match in Battlefield 6 for Rush. So it's strange that instead of saying something along the lines of, hey guys, we like 12v12 for Rush, but we hear you when it comes to making the maps flow better and create a better experience, they just said, yeah, nah, bro, Rush is cool. Like, if you want something else, just go make it in Portal. Like, I don't know, to me, that it's kind of a weird response. I do hope they can dial in Rush better for the launch of the game, because if Rush launches like how it felt in the beta, I have a feeling that mode is going to die out. It's just exhausting right now to play, in my opinion. It's not tactical or strategic like they want or claim it to be right now. I don't know. I just hope they can make Rush feel better at launch. But anyways, that's going to wrap up the video for today. If you want to read the entire article for yourself, I will link it in the description below. What do you guys think of all the changes coming to Battlefield 6? Do you think the movement nerf is a good idea? How did Rush feel to you during the open beta? And are you also grinding 2042 for BF6 skins like me, bro? It's rough. It's rough in these streets right now, dude. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. And if you made it to the end of the video, I truly do appreciate you, man. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already. And until the next one, my name is Sam. Hope you have a good one. Bye.